Welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. We are on episode 15 and today we are going to see what will happen right here with Lavender and Dark Blue. But also we are going to look at other stuff, of course. Two groups met each other right here. Dark Blue and Lavender stood by each other. They were looking at each other and Dark Blue knew eventually what they were dealing with. They did not do anything yet, because they were like not enemies or something, but Dark Blue had more of a hostile approach towards Lavender, because Lavender, they knew about that place far towards the east. Dark Blue turned around and Lavender let them walk this time, because last time when Lavender let people walk away, well, they didn't walk away, they got their heads. So this time their encounter was peaceful enough. Quickly Lavender got some more land around their new found neighbor before they could do it. They also went south, they went north, they went west. They were like cooking in terms of getting land before Dark Blue did it. They were also searching for other groups right here. They didn't know that Dark Blue was the only one nearby, but of course with the Dark Greens very far away. Eventually Dark Blue noticed that they were getting sort of blocked by the Lavenders, so they got everything what they could have get out of that place. And it was like a competition, who can get the most land out of this part of the world. Lavender took them over again, then Blue again and got a great portion. Lavender went a little bit more northwest, got some land out of there as well. Dark Blue got the rest. Lavender got a few still. It was looking like a mess, a complete mess. And that's what's happening also here with Lavender, with Purple and Neon Lime. Lavender was done with gaining land at the moment. Dark Blue too, but they were watching each other closely. They didn't let each other leave their sight. Eventually Dark Blue brought this towards their king and said, "We found Lavender, we found the weird people that Purple found all the way here in the east," and the Dark Blue King brought it to the Purple King as well. And then Purple did something what Lavender was scared of. Purple had a great mission to get some land in the north of their territory. They didn't got that far because of the Himalayas getting closer and closer, but they got a great portion. Purple was quick and swept across land and just got it for their own. Lavender did get what they could, but they were exhausted. Many people, much of their people were or in Africa or in Indonesia. They were scattered around much bigger than they actually thought they were. Small villages could get some land here, but it was minor. They gained a small amount. Here in Indonesia, Mint got this whole island for them to use. Also this little peninsula they were able to get, and even some islands here in the south. And then they got really close and they arrived at this coast right here, at a few places. They got a great mission and they wanted to get this whole island that was potentially here to grab. They were not the only ones. Lavender was using their old tactic again. Mint as well. They eventually connected each other's coasts and then they knew they were next to each other once again. It was a race again. Everyone wanted to get their land. Both wanted to get their land that they thought they deserved. They blocked each other over and over again. It was ugly. It eventually even looked like this. And Lavender and Mint were totally both not happy that they encountered each other again. Mint had no idea Lavender was settled here. They had no clue. But Mint was quick. They were really quick to close Lavender off on expanding more towards the south. Again, Lavender was defeated by another country. It happened here with Mint, it happened here with Purple, and it happened here with Dark Blue. They had much more to expand here in Africa, so they wanted to do that. They wanted to left this place just to run it for their own. They just wanted to run this place and not expand it that much anymore because of this encounter with Mint. They were able to get this small island right here, and the last ones that they were able to get, but Mint was too quickly for them and got the rest of this whole island. They were going to start expanding just like Lavender always did, scattered around inland. back at Dark Cyan. This settlement right here still noticed something was up there in the north with Dark Cyan. Cyan got suspicious. They got so suspicious that they even got a meeting with Magenta, Dark Green, and Pink. Yes, Pink too, because Pink was involved in that rebel group that popped up right here. Magenta did not get a rebel group inside of them, but they were pretty close towards a border with Dark Cyan, so they were approached by Cyan. It was a quick conversation, but it was pretty clear. They wanted to invade Dark Cyan and to know what was happening inside the borders of this suspicious country. Slowly but surely, troops from Cyan gathered around the border with Dark Cyan. Green as well and Magenta supplied both countries with some troops as well. Dark Cyan didn't saw this at first, but eventually they noticed troops around their border with both countries. But then they were too late. The invasion started. Cyan really wanted to get the capital and to see what was happening right here. Green was going for this settlement and this one right here with Magenta's troops as well. They were marching slowly towards the settlements and they didn't got any resist at all in the beginning. Magenta's front, Cyan's front got bigger and bigger. Eventually it spanned across the whole border with Dark Cyan. They even landed some troops right here at the coast. Green did it too, even more towards the south to help Cyan getting hands of this capital. Dark Cyan did not let it slide at first. They first striked around their capital and they were able to get their land back from both parties. They even got some land back around their settlements. Now they were fighting. They were not strong at all, but they could fight. Cyan got their lands back quickly and they were slowly but surely circling in their capital. Green connected their fronts with Cyan and they took it over, so Cyan could help in the capital. And Green was the first to capture one settlement here in the west. Because of Cyan closing this part off from any supplies, from any communication with the mainland of Dark Cyan, this got quickly in the hands of both parties. Green also got quickly towards the south and was clear. Green and Cyan were just too strong for the Dark Cyans and their capital fell in the hands of these two big powers of the world. Remember, Green is the 10th most powerful country in the world and Cyan 5th. They swapped places actually with Lavender because Lavender just split it recently. After they captured this capital, Cyan slowly figured out what Dark Cyan was doing and was planning on doing and what was happening inside their borders all along. They saw documents, they saw planned out strategies to beat Cyan and Green in a potential future war. Cyan was baffled by what they saw, Green as well, and then they just figured it out. Dark Cyan wasn't what they thought it was. It totally wasn't what they thought it was. Lime was in operation all this time. The country that was defeated here, together with Dark Cyan and Dark Blue. Lime moved their so-called king, their government, towards Dark Cyan with a deal that they potentially could get revenge on Red, but also Dark Red and Dark Blue. Because of course, Red was their first main enemy, their main villain, because Red was the first team they got betrayed on. And eventually Dark Cyan got in their borders and Dark Blue just took it over as well. Lime was still operational. But why wanted Lime, Cyan and Green to be gone after they helped a little bit them? After they were always friends, sort of allies? Well, because they never actually helped Lime that much. Remember in the very first Great War, Cyan did a little bit of an invasion in the first Great War. After the doors flew open, Cyan and Green were overwhelmed by Lime's forces. They got their land back in the west, in the southwest, in the south, in the east and in the north. Lime was just waiting to operate again. Dark Cyan and Lime made a deal. The very big first reason why almost no troops arrived when this war was happening right here, when Red attacked Lime and Dark Red eventually. Because no troops were there to fight. It was because most of their troops already fled into Dark Cyan with the deal to protect and hide them until whenever they could strike again. Sadly, Cyan and Green knew something was up and they had to figure it out. But because of that, their cover was blown. And now, eventually the whole world will know that Lime was back. There was a sort of peace treaty. It was quick. So Dark Cyan got their land, what they lost. The capital city was in their hands again. But when Cyan and Green left the country alone, the country was operating different, more different than before. Almost like Dark Cyan never existed. The government, the higher-ups, were different now. It was another king. It wasn't Dark Cyan anymore. What did they do with the original Dark Cyans? What happened? It was just a trick up on their sleeve. Eventually news spread to Dark Red and they were baffled. But when the Dark Red king heard it himself, he bursted out in laughter. He was like surprised by what happened all those years ago when he was not in charge. Of course, the old king that was in charge when this war happened was already dead. Of course, with Cyan as well, with Lime as well, their bloodline just continued in Dark Cyan. Eventually Dark Blue got the information and the king was just speechless. But when Red eventually noticed that Lime was still operational, the king didn't know what to say. They were once friends with Lime, but after they got abandoned by their friends, after that Lime just did not help them in a war, what they actually started, of course. Red wanted to attack. A little bit of brown, a little bit of orange, a little bit of magenta. Lime didn't help them, so maybe it was all their fault. Two small pockets on the map, too far away to reach each other, but they were furious to get one another wiped on the maps. While that was happening, Mint got this whole island in their hands together with these two. Also this one in the north, with another coast landing right here. They even got on land here on another island. I think it's called Java, right? If not, excuse me. They expanded big time here as well. And Lavender stayed where they were. But in Africa, they expanded southwards. They were liking this warmer climate that they found right here. They got these islands, and they were expeditioning more in the west as well. Remember their tactic that no one actually used other than these two countries now, Mint and Lavender. Their mission was to find more and more land that was uncovered or unclaimed. More and more people moved here as well, so they got 4 new settlements. Now that Red knew Lime was still alive, they had a plan to get an assassination done here in the Lime team. The Red King didn't know how. It still just had 2 major cities, with 1 becoming major soon as well. That eventually happened, but they were just too weak and too vulnerable to send someone outside of their borders, because I didn't ever tell you guys, but Reds weren't allowed of their country that easily. Remember, Dark Red is surrounding them completely 24/7 all the time, with security as well. They didn't want any more things happening outside of this pesky land. But what they didn't know is that the Red was building boats to venture far outside what humanity ever tried to do. The furthest anyone ever got here in Europe was here in Greenland. And they, remember, got somewhere over here, but they traveled back because they didn't saw or find anything else. Red believed that the Earth was round. Red believed about finding the same people if they were just traveling far enough. They believed they could get in touch with that really unknown country that was lying all the way in the east, Lavender. They wanted to get in touch with Lavender and end this once and for all together. It was a very big plan. It was a very out-of-the-box plan. Very unlikely to work. But of course the news spread, and they knew about the Lavender country. They still didn't know about that Mint country that existed, because no one did, other than Lavender itself. But their plan was to sail across the ocean to find Lavender. And you can say, Well, why can they not just sail around Africa? That's because they don't know how Africa is. Like, they don't know they can just sail around it. They can sail underneath it. Although Red was defeated all those years ago, they still had smart people. Scientists, cartographers, mathematicians, smart people. And they figured out the Earth was round, what no one ever actually tried to figure out. This world is more busy upon itself with their neighboring countries. But some, like Gold, and let's say Purple, that tried to sail here, were curious and interesting enough to go outside of their normal borders. So if Red was able to get in touch with Lavender, they thought they could scare the world once again. Because after millennia being tortured, being enclosed, being defeated every time, over and over again, the Red King, the Red civilians wanted to get revenge. It was time to strike again.